Have you ever noticed how some people can command a room without uttering a single word? They don't shout, they don't beg, they simply withdraw. And suddenly, everything shifts. The air grows heavier. The noise collapses. The people who once ignored them begin to chase, to question, to feel. That is not magic. It is mastery. The mastery of presence through absence. It is the quiet law of energy. When you stop giving yourself away, the world grows desperate to reach you. Now imagine if you lived that way. If you stopped reacting to every sound, every message, every emotional tug. If you chose silence over explanation, calm over confrontation, retreat over reaction, what would happen? I'll tell you what would happen. The world would panic, because most of the world controls you through your reactions. They don't need to chain you when they can trigger you. They don't need to silence you when they can provoke you. Your predictability is their power, but the moment you withdraw, truly withdraw, their control collapses. The moment you choose stillness over noise, you become unreadable, and the unreadable man is dangerous. Those who once thought they knew you realize they never understood you at all. Every irritation others cause in you is a mirror of your unmastered self. The moment you step back, you begin to see that their noise was never about you. It was about their need to keep you reacting. When you stop reacting, you become the silence they fear. Look closely and ask yourself, when you pull away, who panics? Who provokes you just to draw you back into the old rhythm? Their discomfort is your revelation. It shows exactly who depended on your chaos to feel in control. You have been trained since childhood to be accessible, to please, to respond, to agree, to never make anyone wait. You have been taught that goodness is availability, that love means immediate reply, that silence means guilt. But this conditioning is not virtue, it is slavery. Every time you say yes when you wanted to say no, every time you explain when you owed no explanation, every time you rush to respond to prove you care, you surrender a fragment of your spirit, and by the end of the day, you feel it. That quiet exhaustion, that vague emptiness. It is the weight of a life lived on other people's terms. Understand this truth. Being too available is not kindness, it is self-abandonment dressed as virtue. The world has convinced you that your worth is measured by how quickly you answer, how much you give, how often you show up. But in truth, your worth increases when your energy becomes selective. Those who always give are rarely valued. What is too abundant becomes invisible. What is always accessible becomes ordinary. What costs nothing earns no respect. And so the very thing you thought made you loved, your constant presence, becomes the reason you are taken for granted. The cure is not bitterness, it is clarity. It is learning that restraint is not rejection and withdrawal is not weakness. It is understanding that your silence has value, your distance has meaning, your absence has gravity. When you stop being emotionally available to everyone, the world begins to reorganize itself around your new boundaries. Those who were there for your energy will drift away. Those who were there for your essence will stay. That is how the sorting begins. Quietly, naturally, without confrontation. You see, it is not your love that people misuse. It is your immediacy. They know they can summon you at will, and so they do. Not because they need you, but because they need to feel powerful enough to interrupt you. Every time you rush to answer, to fix, to comfort, to prove, you teach them that your peace is negotiable. You train them to reach for you not out of respect, but out of habit, and habit is the death of reverence. When you become predictable, you become a utility. When you are always accessible, you stop being seen as a person. You become a function. A relief station for other people's anxiety, a stage for their validation, an emotional vending machine that dispenses comfort on demand. And when you no longer perform that function, they call you cold. Not because you are cold, but because you have stopped being convenient. Listen carefully. People who love your energy but not your essence will always punish your boundaries. They will call your silence arrogance. They will call your distance cruelty. They will call your peace indifference. But their pain is not your betrayal. It is their exposure. They depended on your chaos to hide from their own. When you no longer respond on command, they are left alone with the noise of themselves, and that silence terrifies them. Yet that is the first step toward true power. When your silence becomes unbearable to those who fed on your reaction, you have already won, because you have begun to reclaim what is most sacred. Your energy. Energy is not just time, it is life force, the invisible current that shapes your every perception, emotion, and thought. Each reaction you give drains it. Each argument you enter burns it. Each attempt to prove your innocence or worth scatters it into the wind. When you begin to guard that energy, when you start saying less, replying slower, walking away sooner, you will notice something extraordinary. Your presence grows stronger, even as your words grow fewer. People will feel you more when you speak less. They will remember your calm longer than they remembered your effort. They will think of you not as the one who was always there, but as the one who could not be shaken, and that is power. You do not need to raise your voice to be heard. You do not need to fight for validation. You do not need to explain your peace to those who profit from your restlessness. The moment you choose silence over reaction, you become untouchable. Silence is not the absence of sound. It is the presence of self. It is the refusal to be owned by what disturbs you. It is not running away from conflict. It is rising above the level where conflict can reach. You are not here to be constantly understood. You are here to be fully yourself. Stop chasing the comfort of being seen. Start cultivating the strength of being centered, because the day you learn to sit still while the world tries to provoke you, that is the day you stop being a participant in chaos and start becoming its master. The human mind is not a machine that simply reacts to every touch of the world. It is a sacred field of energy. Every thought, every emotion, every word, every reaction consumes from it. And yet most men waste this energy as if it were endless. They spend it defending what needs no defense, explaining what should be left in silence, arguing over what has no meaning. You must learn this truth. Energy is your most precious possession, and your reactions are how you spend it. Every impulsive response, every need to justify, every attempt to correct the opinion of others, that is your life force leaking out. Every hour spent ruminating over words said in anger, every night replaying conversations that cannot be changed, every moment pleasing those who do not honor you. That is sacred energy given to what will never return it. This is why you feel empty, not because you lack love, but because you squander attention. You exhaust yourself feeding ghosts, people and patterns that drain you without nourishment. The truly powerful are not those who control others, but those who control the direction of their energy. When you master your reactions, you master your fate. You stop being shaped by circumstance and begin to shape circumstance itself. Do not mistake exhaustion for effort. The tired are not always the dedicated. Often they are simply the distracted, those who fight battles that were never theirs to fight. Look at the world. Most people react to everything. They are pushed by emotion, pulled by noise, twisted by approval. They cannot sit in stillness because silence demands self-awareness, and awareness demands discipline. You cannot live freely if you are a servant to every feeling. Freedom begins when you realize you can choose your response. That moment, the space between stimulus and reaction, that is where your power lives. Guard that space as you would guard your home. Let no one invade it. Do not rush to respond. Do not rush to be understood. Pause, breathe, watch. The longer you can hold silence, the more you see what others miss. Patterns appear, masks fall, games expose themselves. While others are busy explaining their worth, you are learning. While they argue, you observe. While they shout, you prepare. The one who can stand still while others scramble already holds the higher ground. This is the essence of composure, not coldness but clarity, the ability to see through the fog because you no longer breathe in the chaos. When you are still, you see manipulation for what it is. You see how others test your boundaries, not because they want your truth, but because they want your reaction. They want to confirm they can still move you, and when they can no longer move, they call you distant, unkind, arrogant, anything to pull you back into the old rhythm of emotional servitude. But you owe no one your reaction. You owe yourself your peace. The quiet mind does not mean an empty one. It means a disciplined one. A mind that does not spill its strength on every spark of irritation, on every provocation that seeks to bait it into chaos. When you learn this art of selective response, you begin to notice something profound. The manipulator loses power without you ever confronting them. They depend on your participation to play the game. When you stop playing, the game collapses. You will see it happen. Someone will provoke you with guilt or complaint. You will not respond. They will grow louder, desperate, confused. Then their mask will crack because silence forces them to face what noise once hid. Silence turns the mirror back toward them. It exposes their intentions. It makes their drama echo back upon itself, and they can no longer hide behind your reactions. That is why silence threatens people. It breaks the illusion that they control you. When you no longer respond to manipulation, the manipulator begins to unravel. Do not pity that unraveling. You are not responsible for their disquiet. You are responsible for your balance. Your detachment is not cruelty. It is clarity. It reveals to others what they never wanted to see, that their control existed only through your compliance. When you refuse to play the savior, the victim, the pleaser, you force the world to stand on its own, and many cannot. They collapse under the weight of their own emptiness. They will accuse you of abandoning them, when in truth you have simply stopped abandoning yourself. Understand this well. Your stillness will offend those who depended on your chaos. Your peace will disturb those who relied on your guilt. Your silence will frustrate those who thrived on your noise. But let them shake. Let them interpret. Let them call you what they must. Their discomfort is not your burden. It is their mirror. Do not explain your calm to those who live in storms. They would not believe it anyway. It is better to be misunderstood in peace than understood in misery. And here is a paradox few comprehend. Your silence will speak louder than your defense ever could. Those who are meant for you will feel your depth in that silence. Those who only wanted your function will fade away. That is how truth cleanses your circle. Quietly, mercilessly, beautifully. When you become unavailable to manipulation, people show their true face. The ones who stayed only for convenience will vanish. The ones who loved your essence will remain. And the ones who depended on your reaction will finally meet themselves. That is the gift your silence gives the world. Reflection. Do not rush to rescue them from it. Do not rush to fill their emptiness. Let them sit in their own echo. It is the only way some people will ever learn. And now, understand this final shift. Your silence is not just a weapon. It is a sanctuary. It is not an escape from the world. It is a return to yourself. Within that silence, your mind reorganizes. Your energy, once scattered, begins to gather. You start hearing your own voice again. The one you drowned beneath other people's noise. What you once called loneliness becomes clarity. What you once called distance becomes peace. What you once called coldness becomes strength. This is the transformation that silence births. It does not erase emotion. It refines it. It does not remove connection. It filters it. It does not build walls. It builds sovereignty. Silence is not absence. It is sacred presence. It is the purest expression of control. because to speak is to reveal, but to stay silent is to decide, and decision is power. Each time you choose silence over reaction, you tell the universe that your energy is not free to take. You tell others that your boundaries are not made of air. You remind yourself that the highest form of love is self-respect. And slowly, your silence will begin to change everything around you. People will treat you differently. The world will approach you differently, because the energy of one who knows how to hold their own calm commands respect. Before a single word is spoken, that is the beginning of true sovereignty. It is not found in domination or revenge or argument. It is found in mastery of reaction. When you stop being available to everyone, a transformation begins, not in the world, but in you. At first, it feels like loss. There is a strange, aching silence that follows your withdrawal. You wonder if you've become too distant, too hard, too proud. You question whether you've lost something precious by stepping back. But slowly, that silence begins to change shape. It no longer feels empty. It begins to feel clean. The noise that once consumed you starts to dissolve. What you once mistook for loneliness becomes serenity. And then you realize this is not isolation. This is sovereignty. You are no longer at the mercy of who calls, who texts, who demands, who disapproves. You are no longer chasing validation disguised as connection. You are no longer apologizing for existing as you are. You have reclaimed the most sacred space there is, your attention, and in that space, something ancient awakens. You begin to feel what few ever feel. Peace without permission. The modern world is addicted to noise, addicted to urgency. It glorifies exhaustion and confuses constant activity with purpose. Everyone is chasing, talking, proving, performing. But power has never belonged to the loud. It belongs to the centered. Real power is silent. It does not argue. It does not announce. It does not seek validation. Power is the man who sits still while others scramble. The woman who smiles instead of explaining. The soul who walks away instead of reacting. Because what they understand, and what the world forgets, is that silence is not emptiness. It is energy condensed. It is presence distilled. It is command without words. You have spent years running after people who never stopped to meet you halfway. You have poured your energy into conversations that were only meant to keep you small. You have defended yourself against people who never wanted the truth, only control. But now you know better. Now you understand that every time you hold your silence, you preserve your power. Every time you walk away instead of reacting, you reclaim a piece of your freedom. And every time you choose yourself, you remind the universe that your energy is sacred ground. This is not arrogance. It is maturity. It is the quiet dignity of one who no longer trades peace for participation. You must understand, there is no growth without solitude. There is no clarity without withdrawal. And there is no self-respect without boundaries that others may call selfish. You will lose people. You will lose approval. You will lose the comfort of old patterns. But you will gain something no one can give you, yourself. You will begin to feel something pure, your own presence. That stillness that doesn't need to be filled. That strength that doesn't need to be proven. That calm that doesn't depend on anyone's reassurance. When you stop being a reaction to the world, you become a creation of your own spirit. You cease to mirror others' chaos and start to radiate your own order. You become the quiet in the room full of noise, and everyone feels it. That is what it means to be whole. Not perfect, not loud, whole. The man who stands still in his silence owns more power than 10 who shout for attention, because silence makes people confront their own restlessness. It exposes their dependency on your energy. It forces them to question themselves, and that is something few can bear. So they call you distant, arrogant, mysterious. Let them. They are naming what they fear, that they can no longer reach you. There is nothing more magnetic than peace that cannot be provoked. Nothing more attractive than restraint that doesn't need validation. Nothing more dominant than calm that cannot be shaken. You will start to notice it. When you walk into a room, the energy will bend. Not because you demand attention, but because you no longer seek it. Not because you are superior, but because you are whole. That is presence, not noise, but gravity. The kind of presence that speaks in silence, commands without asking, influences without effort. You have become the storm's eye, untouched, unmoved, observing everything. And in that stillness lies your advantage. Those who react lose themselves. Those who observe begin to rule. This is the paradox of control. You gain it only when you stop needing it. You begin to lead not by force, but by frequency. People align with your calm, the way planets align with gravity. That is influence. That is mastery. You must learn to endure being misunderstood. You must accept that silence will offend the noisy. You must let go of the desire to be liked by everyone you outgrow, because truth is never comfortable to those who live in illusion. And your stillness will feel like rejection to those who are fed by your chaos, but let them feel it. Let your absence teach them what your presence once gave too easily. Let your silence echo louder than your explanations ever could. There comes a point in every soul's journey where you must walk alone, not because no one cares, but because you must learn to care for yourself without proof. You must learn to validate your own worth without applause. You must learn to stand firm without an audience. That is the beginning of freedom. You will discover that peace is not the absence of problems. It is the absence of unnecessary reaction. You will discover that love is not about giving yourself away. It is about giving from overflow, not depletion. You will discover that solitude is not loneliness. It is the laboratory of the soul. And you will begin to understand that silence was never the enemy. It was the teacher, waiting patiently behind all your noise. Silence is the sound of alignment. It is where your energy returns home. It is where your scattered self becomes one. And once you taste that stillness, real stillness, you will never chase noise again. You will no longer beg to be seen. You will no longer hurry to be understood. You will no longer explain your peace to those addicted to chaos. You will simply live, calm, deliberate, sovereign. Because the truth is simple. What is truly yours will find you without noise. What is not will fall away no matter how loudly you call for it. And what remains will meet you in silence, the only place where truth can breathe. So withdraw when you must. Be silent when you can. Speak only when your words have more value than your quiet. And remember, you do not owe the world your constant availability. You owe yourself your wholeness. The world has enough noise. Be the stillness that cuts through it. Be the calm that steadies it. Be the presence that cannot be provoked. Because when you master silence, you master energy. When you master energy, you master self. And when you master self, nothing outside you has power anymore. That is not withdrawal. That is awakening. And awakening in its purest form is this. You stop reacting to the world, and the world starts responding to you.